Bikelash, I think, a little counterintuitively, is a great thing to be dealing with. It's a high-class problem to have because it means we're actually making a difference. It means we're actually forcing difficult decisions in a good way, in a constructive way on communities as they decide what they're going to look like in the future.
Bikelash, for us, for everyone, is when the media talks about biking issues in a default negative way. For example, they say things like, bicyclist not wearing helmet gets hit by car. And they're insinuating that a bicyclist's reckless behavior might have caused this issue.
There certainly is Bikelash in Chicago. I think for the most part it's gone underground because the official narrative in the city is that we're trying to make cycling better and that cycling is important, and they're seeing so many people out riding. And so dealing with that underground backlash is a little bit tricky. It's really about storytelling and putting a human face on it.
The number one thing I've done to really reframe or change people's minds on how they talk about Bikelash is asking people to remember their childhood. So they remember either the first time they fell off their bike or the first time they rode far away from their parents. It was the first sense of independence. And everyone has typically a very positive association with their first ride. So once you get people in that space where they're thinking about what it was like to ride as a kid, you've got them primed and ready and willing to listen to your message.
Well, we've been stuck in Bikelash in Portland for the last 20 years. I mean, between our daily newspaper and the business associations and just absolute misperception of the issues, we've been forever dealing with this argument of special interest group, completely misunderstanding how this is good for the economy, how this is good for the city, how it's good for the very businesses who are fighting against it.
Especially when they talk about incidents as accidents rather than collisions, which is what they are. So by doing things like that, by reporting on issues automatically more negative towards bicyclists, they start to validate those notions that bikes don't belong.
There is what people are calling a bikelash, a bike backlash, and the way that Bike Easy is really working through that is to bring in our coalition partners from various communities that care about walking and biking from the perspective of it being something that they need and want to do. So this isn't a bike conversation. This is a people conversation.
In Long Beach, more people are becoming aware and being more receptive to bikes, but you still have the folks who think that bike infrastructure is a waste of money, a waste of time, and people don't use it. But I think in general, people are coming around and they're starting to see that, this is a benefit to the city, this is a benefit to the community. It gives us options to travel and it makes our communities healthier.
The Bikelash in Philadelphia, I feel like, is kind of waning at the moment. We haven't really had too much kind of crop up recently, but it's also like the city hasn't tried to do anything that took away parking recently, and that is really like the lodestar of the Bikelash in Philadelphia.
In the Phoenix metro area, and so what we still have, since there's a lot of drivers there, we get that you're going to take something away from us to give to bicyclists, and it's really not, it shouldn't be looked at that way, because a lot of the bike advocates and bike planners are trying to make clear that we're trying to improve transportation for everybody, so you can still drive your car.
It's inevitable. It's an inevitable reaction to change that we need to be able to be aware of, be ready for, to manage, to predict, to address, and be responsive to the issues that people are raising.
For the most part, the tide is shifting, and I think in large part because they don't want to be seen as the New York Park Slope, anti-bike people, because we talk about that a lot. Like, hey, this stuff has actually already happened. If you want to do a Bikelash, you got to be a little more innovative. So I even try to challenge people on their hate against bikes, and at least that gives them a little bit of a pause.
Bikelash is really a good thing in terms of change. We say there are 3 stages of social change: ridicule, violent opposition, and then acceptance. And sometimes there's a 4th stage too, where someone who has been opposed to it from the beginning will say, oh, you know what, I was really, that was such a great idea, I was really for it right from the start. And it makes all of us giggle and be happy, and we just go on doing good work.